What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Franchise Empire newsletter. My name is Tarek Johnson. I'm the CEO and founder of Franchise Empire, and I'm here with Mr. Mark Magerman. How you doing, Mark?
I'm good, Tarek. How are you?
Doing fantastic.
It's always nice to do these on Mondays.
Yeah, it is. I do enjoy doing this on Mondays now that we used to do it on Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, I've found that since we've started moving it to Monday, I'm actually getting candidates reaching out saying, hey, I heard it earlier in the week, and we actually are getting some momentum and being able to address some of the things that we chat about on these newsletters. So I think the earlier part of the week is definitely helping our candidates out there.
Nice. Fantastic. Cool, guys. Well, today, what do we have to cover today? So, number one, a service franchise showing the owner doing over $11 million in sales. That is the highest performing franchise business in the FDD. We will, of course, as we always do, go over all of the numbers that are listed in the FDD as well. Or we give a screenshot, but we always hit low, medium, average, high, etc. We'll also talk about an affordable resale with a strong franchise brand. We'll talk about a franchisee who sold their business and then they bought this, and what life is like after buying a franchise. So let's dive right in. So the resale today is a company called Advantaclean, and Advantaclean, they're in the mold remediation and restoration space, right? So there's some of the services. I'm not going to go through all of this in detail. If you guys want to actually read the whole thing, you can make sure to get access to this this newsletter. I'll show you how to do that in a bit, actually. But they do mold removal and remediation. They do air duct cleaning, sanitizing, all sorts of those things that have pretty high tickets associated to it. And they also do fire and water damage restoration and cleanup. Again, this business, you can really have some big ticket jobs. The resale is in South Carolina. If you want to know what area in South Carolina, reach out to us, and we can share that information with you. We do have to start becoming a little bit more protective about the specifics of the resale so people don't try to contact the owners directly. But if you want to find out more about the specific resale, you can go to that link there, franchiseempire.com/resales. But the asking price is $480,000. Their last year revenue was $710,000. And you can get access to cash flow by filling out an NDA and reaching out to us at the link below. Mark, what are some of the you want to talk through kind of some of the competitive advantages of Advantaclean and just your knowledge of this kind of category overall as well?
Yeah, if you scrolled up a little bit at the beginning when you were listing the opportunity, it says non-emergency. If you scroll up a little bit further, I just want to point out, because that was a point I was going to bring up when you brought it in. There it is. Unlike most of our competitors, it focuses on non-emergency scheduled work. So in the restoration business, it's usually fraught with emergency situations, fire, things that have to be fixed immediately. You have to get your insurance company involved. They do that type of work, but they also do scheduled non-emergency work, which is a huge differentiator in this business, because most of them, like I said, are relying pretty strictly on the insurance model and the emergencies. And when that happens, you're competing with lots of other emergency-based restoration companies. This allows the franchise owner to get involved by communicating that they're there for emergency and non. I think that's a real special part of it. And it's really an air purification type business. So, people who are buying new homes or trying to sell their homes, there's a lot of needs for this type of service above and beyond emergency care. So I just wanted to make that point. And the Advantaclean folks are really good at explaining that differentiation.
That's a really good point. Actually, I did not catch that, and I wasn't aware of that distinction with Advantaclean.
Yeah.
Cool.
And again, they've been around for over 30 years. They got well over 150 franchise owners at last I checked. And again, it's the kind of a business, when I talk to candidates, sometimes some of the pushback might be being so reliant on insurance claims, which I think is part of this business. But while you may have to wait a little while to get paid, it's also guaranteed payment. So, for every corresponding positive, there may be a potential caveat. But these are just great businesses because, again, you're working with people who need your services in an emergent situation, and they need it in non-emergent situations. So that their track record really speaks for themselves. And I like the bullet point here, Tarek, which honestly I wasn't even aware of. Funding is available for large loss national account and easy for me to say, catastrophic events to ensure healthy cash flow for the franchisees as they take on big jobs. So they're even funding the franchisees, which to me means the franchisees can get paid in advance for that work. I think that's what that means, which would be a really unique feature to this business that I honestly wasn't aware of if it wasn't for this opportunity today. So, boy, that's a question I'll follow up on and ask more about, but that's what it seems to say to me.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. I know that becomes a challenge in this sort of business for those of you guys who are, because of when you do these projects, right? You are coming out of pocket. Now you might be securing deposit for some of it, but on some of these large insurance jobs, you probably aren't, right? So let's say there's a $30,000 job that gets approved by someone's insurance company. I actually, we had this at our house in California. We had some water damage. I think it was an approved $60,000 job. Well, they're going in, they're paying their employees to come in and tear down walls and do all sorts of things. And, insurance companies can take 30, 60, 90 days to pay. And so the fact that the franchisor can provide the funding to bridge that gap while people are waiting to get paid and ease the cash flow burden, that's very, very unique.
And very beneficial to the franchise owner.
Yeah. So some of our thoughts overall outside of their competitive advantages is that this is a pretty solid resale with a solid brand. Resales often get scooped up by neighboring franchisees. So I'll jump down a bit. So Advantaclean is owned by Home Franchise Concepts, which HFC also owns Budget Blinds. They own Kitchen Tune-Up, Bath Tune-Up. They own a whole host of different franchise brands. And so, number one, there's a lot of support and financial backing and resources there, but it really allows you to potentially build an empire. And potentially you then acquire neighboring franchisees as they go to retire, as they go to exit as well. This business does not have recurring income. I don't know why this was in here. That was looks like maybe from a previous newsletter that did not get deleted. But those are some of the competitive, some of our take. Solid resale, get the opportunity to build an empire, and it's a part of the Home Franchise Concepts brand and family. So with that said, if you guys have any interest in this specific resale, want to know what resales are available in your market, want to have a conversation about that, go to franchiseempire.com/resales. With that said, let's celebrate one of our newest franchisees. By the way, actually, I want to show you this for a second. So I dropped the link in the comments too. If you guys, you can't see that, can you? Can you see this? Yes, you can. All right. So I dropped the link in the chat to the actual, if you're not on our signed up for our email list for our newsletter, you can click the link below and you can get this whole entire shebang right there so that you can access it. And in the top right-hand corner where it says newsletter, go to the website, go to free resources, and then click on Empire Builder Newsletter. excuse me, enter your email address, and you can make sure that you get this in your inbox every Sunday, by the way. Okay, now let's celebrate one of our franchisees. Dane. So Dane was a successful franchisee who was actually in the process of selling his current home service franchise business. And we've found this actually more recently that we're starting to have more and more successful entrepreneurs reach out to us, as well as people that have been franchisees before. But basically, he did not use a broker his first time around owning his franchise, and he realized he wasn't up to speed with all the latest franchise opportunities and didn't really want to deal with the headache of trying to research and narrow in on options on his own. And so our team quickly explored some service-based options, and he decided on a window and graphics business that he felt was a really good fit just because it was low overhead and investment, as well as it being complementary in nature to a business that his wife had. So congratulations to Dane. We're excited to see, how a successful entrepreneur like yourself crushes it. Okay, let's move on to franchise of the week. All right, Mark, you want to walk us through this franchise?
Yeah, very similar to the resale from Advantaclean we just looked at, kind of coincidentally. But Rainbow Restoration is one of those great brands, been around for a while, that focuses on mitigation, restoration, reconstruction, mold remediation, water, fire, smoke, odor cleanup, wind damage, and a bunch of other additional services. So yes, it's also owned by Neighborly, which is one of the largest family of brands in the country. We love Neighborly at Franchise Empire because of the experience and the expertise of the people who represent the brand and leadership there. Again, this is the kind of business where you're really relying on emergency situations when people need the service. But what they've done, because again, if someone has a fire or flood damage and they're panicking and they're calling all these different places, how do you get an advantage over that necessarily as a company that provides those services? But they also offer cleaning services and additional services where you see here a carpet cleaning, upholstery cleaning, and other services that you can get year round. And the real strategy there is to get in the minds of your customers before they need these emergency services, and you can hit the ground running with a business like this because there's no emergency situation required for people to clean their houses and their apartments and their floors and their upholstery. So it's really two businesses in one. And again, the restoration side of the business is 99% funded by insurance, so the business is coming there. So the better franchisees, you're having really two businesses in one: the emergency services and the services that they can control by getting in, doing some local marketing and a local awareness in the community on the other services offered. Great company.
Yeah, fantastic. I remember to put the description ahead of the rest of the stuff this time.
Helpful.
You want to run through this stuff?
Sure. So again, started in Texas in 1980 and not a franchise company. And you'll find that most of the best franchises in the world never started out as franchises. They evolved to franchising after they perfected it. So Neighborly bought this business in 2021 after a 20-year run by the predecessor. They also have 50 locations operating in the UK, which is very rare. Franchise units, 313, more than I even thought. So 313 is about as robust as you can get. There's still available territories, I understand, although they're getting to the point where they're dwindling. Franchise fee is $40,000, which is low on the scale of franchise fees in the services category. They have a great sliding scale down on royalty, which justifies the fact that the more money you make as a franchisee, the less of a percentage you're giving to the brand. Total investment caps out at $325,900, which is inclusive of that franchise fee, by the way. And again, I know a lot of you guys know this, but all the investment numbers are in a line item format in the FDD through items 5, 6, and 7. So all of that is all spelled out for you. 10 years is a traditional term. And everybody knows, if you don't, you will soon if you're working with us, that all these new FDDs are getting released over the next couple months. So you'll be able to see some new numbers that are coming out quickly. And again, all the numbers that we're taking here are taken out of the last year's FDD or the one that's currently out.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so this isn't. We'll hit the numbers in just a second, but this is an opportunity where, because they have so many franchise units, rare markets will be available for this specific opportunity. And more as we continue doing this newsletter, we want to be able to at least highlight opportunities where, even if it's like, hey, this is not going to be available in your market, it gives you an idea of an industry that you may not have thought of, that's quite lucrative, that you may now trigger some thoughts like, okay, what other competition exists in that market? And for those of you who might be thinking that, we have a good probably 3 to 6 brands in this space where, depending upon if one's not available in your territorial market, we have some other ones where we know they're solid, they're reputable as well. So just to explain why we might, still show brands that are close to sold out throughout the country. In terms of numbers, let's go through the numbers, right? So this is they're showing.
Tara, I'm sorry. Do you mind if I add one more point to piggyback on what you just said?
Yeah, go ahead.
Which is, so when you have over 300 franchises in the country, to Tarek's point, there's not a lot of availability. But again, if you went back to the Advantaclean example we gave on the resale, doing your homework and due diligence and learning about a business like this is smart, because there's so many franchises, you tend to have more percentage of those available for resales. And good for you if you've taken the time to learn about an industry like this. Then when a resale pops up, you're that far ahead on the due diligence. So again, if it's an interesting category, I suggest you reach out to us. We'll give you a little education on it, see if there's territory available. Worst case scenario, you just get really smart for when a really good opportunity comes along. Thank you.
I love the way Mark says some stuff. Worst case scenario, you get a little bit smarter, guys. That's fantastic. It makes it such a no-brainer, right? All right, so let's talk through some of the numbers. So that they disclose in the 2024 FGD for businesses in 2023, 12 in operation 12 months or more, franchise 12 months or more. So let's start with the lowest, right? Because we always are transparent around how we show the numbers, even though we get you excited by using the high number in the title. But if we look, the lowest performer did a whopping $3,347 in sales. I know, it breaks the bank. So that was the lowest performer, right? And the let's see, the highest performer did $11 million in sales, which is pretty wild to think about. And then it's interesting how they have this laid out like this, because they break it down to the top 10%, top 25%. So on and so forth. You can see the bottom 29% does 30,000. I mean, I don't even know how they would even be in business. The bottom 25% doing $112,000 in sales. And then you can see where the bottom 50% and then the top 50% is just a dramatic difference in terms of the numbers and performance. And then when you average it all together, it's just over $1 million in sales. When you take the median, about $635,000 in sales. So, and this is another benefit, right, to being able to see these sorts of numbers, whether you're interested in this specific franchise, different franchises. Here's the question that I would be asking myself if I were you, right? What's the difference between the people that are in the top 10% and the top 25% versus the people who are in the bottom 25%? What are they doing differently? Like, how do they think differently? How do they operate differently? How could someone possibly be only averaging $112,000 when someone else is averaging $2.6 million? How is that even possible? And so those are the sort of questions that you want to ask during franchisee validation to get a sense of what the successful people are doing. Because at the end of the day, it's kind of like a car. Did I use this analogy last week? I think maybe. Like, you could have the same car. You could have someone drives it like an idiot, And so someone who drives it masterfully, right? And so oftentimes in these franchise businesses, the story that these numbers don't show is the effort, the resourcefulness, and the smarts of the individual franchise owner, And so it's, as you go into a franchise opportunity, I want you to think about that. It's important to think about.
Can I add one more thing to that, Tara? Because it's an
Yes.
amazing point, and I think I talk about it multiple times every week with candidates. But Tara couldn't be more exact. The successful franchisees are successful, and the underperforming franchisees are underperforming because of their individual performance. It has nothing to do with the brand. The brand supports the franchisees equally. The brand doesn't have these executive meetings and say, you know what, this quarter we're only going to help people east of the Mississippi, not west of the Mississippi. They offer the services to support everybody. The reason people underperform is they've made the decision that they're either going to not work plan, they're lazy, or it's on them. Conversely, the people doing all the top levels are doing it, and they're kicking it out of the park by taking all the guidance and feedback they're getting. I always tell candidates when you're doing your call validations, always speak to a high earner, a middle earner, and an underperforming performing franchisee, because the point there is to come out of that conclusion of the calls knowing the brand is there to support those who want to do well. It's not the brand's fault when people underperform. I can't accentuate that enough. And the person doing, what was it, $3,347, you got to know that person's doing zero. He probably hasn't even looked at his business in a year, versus the guy doing $11 million who's probably got a staggering business that he's really proud of. So anyway, I get a little emotional about that topic.
I do too. Yeah, I do too. And it doesn't mean that there are not bad franchises out there, guys, because there certainly are. Now, and if you saw that most of the franchisees were not doing any sort of large number, then okay, that's different. Then it could be telling of the actual system. But when you see that kind of gap, you know that there's opportunity out there. And keep in mind, some of it's just time in. I know everyone wants to be successful overnight. And we live in an instant gratification society. But the reality is, most of the business owners that I know that are putting up crazy numbers in their businesses, whether franchised or not, they've been doing their business for a good bit of time. They haven't just been in their business for a year. So, go into things with the right expectations. If you're expecting to, go in and crush it year one, I think you need to reset your expectations. There's a phrase that most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 5 or 10, right? And so just time in, right? You didn't get to your point in your career a year out of college, right? You didn't get to your kid doing math problems a year out of the womb. It takes time to grow and develop a business. I'm not going to hit on these numbers here. If you want to see those, you can go check out the newsletter on our website. I dropped the link in the chat below. But Mark, you want to just kind of take us through some of these benefits for the franchisees?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about Neighborly as a family of brands with 19 brands. They don't keep competitive brands in their portfolio because that's kind of there's no reason for them to do that. But, in our job here at Franchise Empire, where we're tasked with matching candidates up with brands, first thing I'm always doing is looking at Neighborly, because the leadership on down, everybody that works for the company has the same philosophy, which is, if the franchisees aren't successful, neither are we. And Neighborly is our excellent company that supports that. So that's the first great benefit of that. Also, Tara got to it a little earlier. Really, people who are really looking to build empires, who might want to invest in more than one brand, you invest in a brand with Neighborly, you work really hard for a couple of years, you start scaling that business. By then, you've got intimate knowledge of Neighborly and the people that are there. You can then add another brand. They're mostly all home service brands. So you're going to have, you already have a detailed list of customers you're providing a valuable service for. Now you can add to that. So just tons of advantages being part of the Neighborly family. They also have an amazing national accounts program. This is unique, right? So they have a connection with the major insurance companies, which makes you the preferred vendor. So when you do have these catastrophic issues and people are reaching out to their insurance company, the insurance company is going to say, hey, you might want to call Neighborly and call the brand itself because they're one of the preferred vendors. It's a huge benefit. And that comes to you because of the national account team that Neighborly is allowed to employ because they're a multi-successful company and they have those resources that maybe smaller franchise brands don't have. Again, it's like other service businesses. You can get started with very few employees, 1 or 2 to start. Some of these brands, in this case, it says only one 1099 helper. They don't even want you to start with an employee. They want you to start with a subcontractor. So that minimizes your costs, you get more experienced people and you hit the ground running. So that's a huge win for this business and other service-related businesses. And they have a really amazing SBA Express loan program. It could take anywhere between 80 to 90 days sometimes to get funded with an SBA, and sometimes that can kill deals. They have a really quick one here that can get you up to 350, and that usually has a cap of 150. So again, I think that's the advantage Neighborly brings to the table as well that they offer to their franchisees. And again, unfortunately, you're servicing customers in this case who have had something terrible happen to them. So that's unfortunate, but someone's got to benefit from that. So it might as well be the franchise owner, right? So there's always going to be a need. There's always going to be catastrophic events. There's always going to be floods. I remember the one we had in my house 3 years ago. And so it's the kind of business that's not going to run out. You're not going to run out of business. And again, remember, you also have that other ability to add non-emergency services to that portfolio, upholstery cleaning, carpet cleaning, and things like that to really scale a business.
Yeah, 100%. Some pretty cool things with that brand. No wonder why they have over 300 franchise units throughout the country. Stick around, by the way. I mean, keep coming to these newsletters because you never know when one of those territories become available for resale, right? And we get a list from Neighborly weekly, an exclusive list of resales when they come on the market that we get emailed to us every single week by Neighborly's resale department. So, and we only share one of those with you a week. Wow, that's right. I forgot. I need to create something where we have the whole resale list available where people can reach out to us. Okay, that's something I'm going to put on my.
The other thing on that, Tarek, about the resales, you made a comment a little bit earlier. One of the benefits to a franchisee who's selling his franchise business with a company like Neighborly is Neighborly as a franchisor takes on a big help to the franchisee and essentially becomes the intermediary on some of these deals. So when the franchisee is announcing the deal and it lands on our lap here at Franchise Empire, and we have a candidate that's interested in that particular listing, what we're doing in most cases, we're introducing our candidate to the franchisor. The franchisor is going to do a little qualification, get an NDA signed, and then pass that candidate on to the selling franchisee. And that's to Tarek's point earlier. Don't call these franchisees directly because that's not how the plan is set up. That's the surefire way to not get the deal done. But the franchisor is helping become the intermediary so the franchisee can focus on their business. Just thought I'd mention that as well.
Yeah, solid point. Solid point. All right, guys, if you are interested in this specific franchise and you want to find out, hey, am I one of the lucky ones that my territory would be available? You go to franchiseempire.com/check territory. And if you're just wondering, hey, what franchises are available in my market other than this one, and not just service ones, by the way, recently we've had people say, hey, I'm not interested in the service one. Do you have B2B franchises? Do you have other retail franchises? Do you have other things outside of home services? The answer is yes. We just, we pick one every week to highlight, and most of them tend to be service based. But yeah, we've got access to a bunch of other ones as well. Last but not least is the most recent episode of the Zero to Profitable Franchise podcast. And this is all about what life is like after buying a franchise. And so this podcast episode was with clients of ours, Greg and Julie, who recently became franchisees with a franchise. And I sat down and spoke to both of them, and they talked about the good, the bad, the ugly, just sharing, hey, what their journey is like so far. So you can get a real insight into, hey, what happens after I sign the agreement and what's it like and all of that good stuff, because that tends to be one of the most common questions that people ask is like, what is a day in the life? What does that look like? What do I do after I become a franchisee? So you can click and watch it on YouTube. You can see this will take you to our Franchise Empire YouTube channel. And you can watch that video there. Make sure you subscribe to that specific YouTube channel or wherever you listen to your podcast. The Zero to Profitable Franchise podcast is on those podcast platforms as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this week. Mark and I will see you again next Monday. Mark, thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks, Tarek. Nice job.
Likewise. Bye, guys.
Bye.